Yeah, it's one heart, one shot, now the future is yours. Go! I'm turning dreams into reality. In the love with the...
All right, we are live. How are you guys doing? Hope you're having an absolutely amazing evening and just a great start to your new year, guys. For those of y'all that are new, my name is 𝙄𝙧𝙚-𝙁𝙁. I am one of the co-founders of Pre-PT Grind. And our job is to help you all get into physical therapy school without having to waste a lot of time and money and all the added stress that comes with being a pre-PT, and we'll dive into that a little bit. But what you are tuning into right now is episode, wow, is this 39? I think this is episode 39 of the Pre-PT Inspire series, and it's my favorite series that we do. And what it is we actually bring in students that have been a part of our coaching program, the Accepted System. If you want to find out more about it, go to acceptedsystem.com. But our coaching programs, and these are students that have gotten into PT school, and they have had a lot of the obstacles that you guys might feel right now are like, oh, this is overwhelming, it's too much. These are students that have had low GPAs. These are students that some of them have been rejected before. Some of them have been rejected multiple times. All the things that we're basically taught are like red flags in the pre-PT journey. And that's what usually leads us to second guess ourselves and even sometimes quit. And so this series is meant to help you do the opposite. This series is meant to help you shift and see that those things are possible. Like, you might listen tonight and be like, oh my goodness, that sounds like me. And cool, that should be your confirmation that if Marian can do it, we're about to dive into her story in a little bit, that if she can do it, then you can do it too. And then we will give you a direction at the end of, you know, how you can get started. But that is the purpose of this. So if you're tuning in tonight, looking forward to having y'all, you know, enjoy this process with me. I'm a listener as well to this interview, so I'm super excited. Marian, how are you feeling before we get started?
I am feeling great. I'm kind of nervous because I'm not used to it, but I'm always camera shy, but I'd like to be here and I love to be here, and I would like to, the purpose of it, you know, like to share my story, and I am representing here.
Represent the Accepted System family.
Yes. That's right.
I love it. No, there's no problem with being nervous. I mean, we're all nervous, but you're about to crush it because this is your story. This is and I think these moments are so powerful because now you're able to take what sometimes felt like a lot of pain and frustration and turn it into something that will basically be the light for someone else that is in that current place, right? And so that's what makes this really beautiful. So let's start from the beginning. All right, let's start from the jump. Why physical therapy to begin with? Like, what drew you to this profession? Why did you choose it? We'll start here. And then obviously the next question is we'll dive into what your obstacles were, because that's what people really want to hear. But tell us, like, what drew you to physical therapy in the first place?
Okay, so I'm just going to make it brief, but if any of you have any questions, more than willing to message me or DM me or whatnot. But I never really knew about physical therapy before I learned about it. I was a med student. My journey was nursing school and then go to med school and become an endocrinologist. I'm type 1 diabetic myself, and so that's why I loved it. I was on a wait list for nursing school for like a year. And I was like, man, what am I doing? And for some reason, it didn't feel right to my heart to apply to another school. And so what I did was I volunteered to a couple of places, you know, convalescent homes and stuff, a hospital. And I went to different departments, and then I saw physical therapy. I was like, oh, I thought physical therapists were athletic trainers. Like, what are they doing at a convalescent home or something? And then I learned about that, and then I decided, you know what, I don't know if I'm going to get accepted to nursing school, so let me go into Cal State Dominguez Hills. I live in California, by the way. And so I went to my bachelor's degree. I claimed as a kinesiology major, and boom, I took an exercise physiology class, and I was like, energy systems, what are those? I don't know what those are. And, you know, like insulin resistant and all that. And it just blew my mind. And then after that, I got more into the, you know, working as an aide. And then it really brought me the idea or the realization of PT is not just like one thing. It's very interconnected. It's like it's not just about, you know, the injury, but it's about the biopsychosocial. So knowing the person, how to treat the person, but also knowing the other factors of things. You know, how are you in your life, and why are you not, you know, why you're not going to therapy or something. But it's very complex. Not only the complex system of the body, but the complexity of being a therapist. So I'm, you know, I hope one day it's not an alternative medicine anymore, but that's the reason why.
Oh, I love it. That was beautifully said. You know, I always like to start with that question, because that becomes the thing that you lean back on. It's like, when, especially during the obstacles, it's like, why did I really do this in the first place, right? And then now let's switch to the part that everyone wants to hear, because there's somebody that's going to listen to this next part and say, whoa, that sounds a lot like me. Parts of it sound like me. And this is where that part of inspiration really comes from, because we're interviewing you because you have already gotten into PT school, and we'll get to that later. But now you're about to tell us about some things that you went through that basically made it difficult, and where you were like, man, like, is this gonna work out? You second guess yourself. So for you, what were the biggest obstacles or struggles that you faced or experienced as a pre-PT that ultimately led you to, you know, kind of have moments of maybe even quitting? What were those?
Number one and biggest thing I would say is imposter syndrome, which we all have. But I'm a non-traditional student. I graduated 2016 in my undergrad. I applied, did not get in. And just like Genevieve last night, you know, she said one after the other, one after the other. And it's a funny thing, because I already knew in the mail, if I get a big envelope, oh, that's an acceptance letter. If I get a small envelope, that's a rejection. And it came to a point that the third school, I got a letter in the mail, and it's a small envelope. I was like, oh, rejection. I'm not even gonna open it. Like, it just broke my heart. And yeah, imposter syndrome. And it came to a point where I was talking to myself, and I said, maybe I'm just making myself believe that PT is what I want to be, but maybe it's not for me. You know, it, like, we all have that question, and you're questioning your journey, and it became a cycle, you know. But also, I was young at the time, and I was thinking about, oh my gosh, I'm gonna lose my youth if I just go to school. I gotta, you know, I'm diabetic. Like, what if I don't have kids at this age? Like, I feel like that, all of those became like an imposter syndrome to me. I doubted myself, and I doubted my journey. And then cost of application, like, money is always a problem, right? And then that too, imposter syndrome. And I felt like I was lying to myself of just being a PT, and yeah, killing myself with imposter syndrome.
Wow. I don't know how many of y'all can relate with that, but that's major. You know, applying a cycle, and you know, getting rejected, and then basically starting to second guess, like, am I even qualified for this? And I actually had a conversation with someone recently, and then we'll go to the next question. And I was telling this individual, I was like, have you ever thought about the day you'll get accepted into PT school? And the person was like, no, not really. I was like, well, okay, let's imagine it for a second. What would it look like, right? Like, just imagine they get your acceptance letter, and the person started to describe it to me and telling me that, you know, they probably cry and all, you know, all this other stuff. And I was like, what if I told you that day is real? Like it's not some idea, it's not some hope you have. It's a real day. Like, it exists, like, in the future. It already exists, right? It's just a matter of whether we want to do what we need to do to actually get there or not. And I think that imposter syndrome comes from really feeling like, man, like, what if I'm not good enough? What if I'm just in over my head? What if I do everything in my power and it just doesn't, like, go my way, right? And it's just that it's the fear too. Like, what if I apply again and this happens, right? Like what is that telling me? Is it telling me that I'm really, like, in, like, should I just think of doing something else right now? Did you ever switch career paths, by the way?
I did. Oh my gosh, Joseph, actually, good question. Because literally 2019, I was in my master's degree.
Mm-hmm.
for exercise science.
Mm-hmm.
And while I was doing that, I was thinking of going back to med school.
Mm-hmm.
So I went and applied to UCLA's pre-med program. And I did that entire thing.
Mm.
And that's when I realized both my master's degree and being in the pre-med program, like, shoot, like, I really want to become a PT. Like, everything that I'm learning during my master's degree, I'm learning more about the process of med school,
Yeah.
but also what med school entails.
Yeah.
I keep coming back to the human body in terms of physical therapy.
Yeah.
Like, I'm always like, oh, like exercise, movement, injuries and everything. It's just, I know the medical field, we are part of it, but it's, you know, a different realm. There's so many things. And you would just know what field you're going to be in. And it's funny because I keep coming back to it. I'm diabetic. I wanted to become an endocrinologist.
Wow.
But like, regardless, I was like, man, I want to help diabetics in a different way. And physical therapy, neuropathy is like a biggest thing in diabetes. And we don't see that. As a diabetic, not a lot of people, we don't realize that until now, like until you have it. And in physical therapy, I feel like that's like a big, like just one factor, which is that. Like, let me introduce PT to you and let me prevent you from having neuropathy. Or let me help you move or something. I don't know. But yeah,
that's such a big deal. And the reason why I even asked about that is because I think a lot of times as students, and for those of y'all listening live or watching this on replay, I think what usually like throws us off is when we forget that like if this is what you're called to do, like if this is the career that you like genuinely been called to, and you may have decided to go down a different path and you're like, no, I still want to be a physical therapist. This is literally how I want to serve people in my career. Don't ignore that. Don't ignore that. Don't let the doubts that you have about yourself, whether that's GPA, GRE, you know, being rejected before, don't let that cloud the fact that this is what you're being called to do. Y'all hear me right now? And that's actually why we do these live streams to begin with, because it like, don't ignore that call. It's very easy to listen to other people and, you know, have them basically place their suggestions and doubts on us, and then you start to believe those things as if that's what you want to do, and then, you know, it leads to disappointment down the line. So don't ignore that voice. And you didn't. At some point you were like, okay, I've tried going down different paths, but physical therapy is what I want to do. And so for you, you went to like, you looked for not like guidance. You were like, okay, I need to look for some non-traditional coaching direction. That's when you joined our accepted system coaching program. What led you to search for that non-traditional guidance?
Yes. So, well, first of all, I'm already a non-traditional student.
Look at that. Look at that.
But you know, like after years passing, 2019 was like the biggest thing for me, and that's when I found you guys. After graduating my master's degree, I was like, yeah, I'll just wait next year till I apply, you know, which I kind of did because I graduated in December 2019. But it was, you know, as a non-traditional student, like I am not in the loop of updates, you know, how to apply to PT CAS again. I had the trauma of rejection back in 2016 was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna apply to PT CAS on my own. That's very discouraging. Just thinking about it gave me chills. I was like, I don't want to do it, you know. But also, don't get me wrong, being a traditional student, it's great because that's our path. You know, that's where we're eventually gonna go to where we are now as a PT. But I realized, as a 30-year-old, I realized that the traditional route was a bit tougher for me because there's a lot of brainwashing, like you said. I mean, I'm pretty sure a lot of you have been like counselors telling you, you have a bad GPA, you're not gonna get in, or retake this classes. And there's so many times that I've heard, oh, retake classes. And I'm like, retaking classes and classes are expiring. I'm gonna be retaking prerequisites forever. I'm pretty sure there's a way. And that's all of those. And, you know, like, how can I connect to an admission counselor without being too nosy or being too pushy? those things made me realize I need help. I need something that will guide me. And I don't know how much time we have, but it's a burning in my heart that I want to share this with whoever's listening.
Go on, say what you got to say.
What really made me decide to be a part of the acceptance system was I reached out to you and Casey, and both of you responded to me on that message that I sent to Facebook instantly. And it wasn't like, because I was so scared that, oh, maybe this is another program where it's just going to take my money and then that's it, you know. I was kind of craving for relationships, not only in a way where I could be helped in my program, like, you know, my application journey, but a lifetime relationship of, you know, friendship and of mentorship, you know. And going back to that, when I heard back from you and Casey was the one who responded to me and said, well, what do you need help with, you know? And then I kind of talked to him, and he didn't even mention like something like, okay, well, that was your trial, so pay tomorrow so that we can help you more. Like, I didn't hear that, and I could you not, and I'm pretty sure you or anybody who's listening right now probably experienced that at anything or at some point in their life, you know. And I was like, man, like, he's just giving me resources left and right, like, and they're a program, like, I'm kind of curious, you know. And he gave Casey and I had a phone call, and I was like, man, they're really wanting to help me, like, you know. And then after that, I jumped into the masterclass training, and I was like, man, you said, I would never forget, you said, when is the right time? There's no right time. There's no right time. It's either you do it now or you wait and you think, and you're going to drown in that. You're going to be a prison of yourself, thinking maybe next year, maybe tomorrow, maybe later. And then when I thought about that, I was like, no, I got to do this. I got to do this. And look, here I am today.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Speaking of which, for those of y'all that are listening to this before January 17th, and then I have a few more questions for you, but for those of y'all watching this before January 17th, and as we record this, it's in a few days on Sunday, we're actually doing that masterclass. And so if you have not registered for it, trust me, it's going to be an hour and a half of amazing value that will help you get unstuck. Even if you are in our coaching programs already, I would say sign up for it, because it'll give you the life that you've been looking for and the clarity and direction. So go to leveluptheprept.com. It's a free training. Go there, save your seat. I think when I checked before, there's like 890 students that have already registered for it. So go save your seat, guys. Go reserve your seat. We'll see you there. We'll help you guys get unstuck and make 2021 a beautiful year. But for you, Marian, like, tell me real quick, and then I want us to dive into you talking about the day you got accepted into PT school. But for you, just real quick, like, how did the acceptance system, just like in a few words, like, how did it actually help you deal with a lot of the obstacles you were facing to ultimately help you get into PT school?
Gaining confidence, finding that family, and, you know, the networking, right? Network, not just like connecting and then not knowing anything. My PT CAS application journey, really, essays. I mean, there's so many things. And the biggest thing would probably be accountability. Like, I felt it's nice to walk in life not being alone, you know? So that was really, really helpful for me, but a lot. Oh, and then the biggest thing too, like, I didn't know this, but getting some of my classes waived and really using my master's degree as an advantage for me, because that was a big question for me, because a lot of people are like, oh, you have your master's degree? I mean, it doesn't really matter, which is true. I learned more at some schools, it doesn't really matter, but taking that to an advantage for me, pre-PT grind, the acceptance system really helped me with that. But then again, accountability above. Number one is accountability, and these are the constituents to the accountability part.
So. Wow, I love it. All right, let's go to the fun part. tell us about the day you got accepted into PT school, because that's a day that a lot of us as pre-PTs really like anticipate, we hope for. We're like, man, I hope one day it happens for me. Like, what was that day like for you? How did you find out? What were your emotions? What were your thoughts? Tell us a little bit about it, and then I have one last question before we finish this, this interview.
So I actually got accepted to a couple schools, but I'm just gonna share with you my acceptance on the school that I'm actually gonna go to. But I was actually at work. I was working, treating a patient, and then I went to the computer because I need to print an HEP, so an home exercise program. And then I checked my email, and then I looked, the school popped up, Mount St. Mary's. And then I was like, oh my gosh. I was nervous, I was shaking. I clicked on the email, and it says on big letters, congratulations. I was like, oh, no more small envelopes. Like, this is like the biggest envelope I've ever received. And it's so nice because I just literally couldn't hold myself. I just did, oh! And then one of the PT, who is actually an alumni of the school, she goes, girl, I don't care, I'm gonna hug you. We have masks, I have facial and everything. And she just literally hugged me, and I couldn't believe. But then it's funny because there's this feeling of like fear again, but it's a different kind of fear. It's more so like, I have to do well, and this is a new journey. It's just the beginning. And yeah, but it's a relief. Like everybody says, it's like weighted off your shoulder.
Yeah, it's a massive weight lifted off your shoulder, and that's just nervousness that comes with having a new journey. I think we said this last night for the last night's interview. It's kind of cool when you get into PT school, because at that point it's really just, let's just survive. it's more so like, let's just make it through, because you really just got to make it through, right? So obviously I'm not telling you to like settle for less. I'm just saying that like don't freak yourself out. Just work hard, do a lot of the things that have really helped you get there. Use people. Obviously, people that have been through PT school as well. Use their expertise. But at the end of the day, you just got to make it through. And you getting into PT school is the confirmation that you need to know that you can make it through. So I'm so proud of you. And for the last question, what would you say to yourself a year and a half ago? Like just go back to a time where you were like, where you really, really doubted yourself, and you were, this reality of you now being a PT student felt so distant. Like, what would you, like, if you could go back in time, knowing that this happened, knowing that you finally got into PT school after dealing with everything you've dealt with over the last few years, what would you say to that version of yourself? And the reason why I asked that question is because somebody listening to this live or on replay is in that place where they would just value what you would say to them as they're going through the obstacles that they're going through right now. So what would your advice be?
I would say, man, this is very deep, Joseph. Like, this question is very deep, but I personally would say that learn how to, like, don't let people brainwash you into thinking of what you can and can't do. Like, there's this quote, I'm paraphrasing, but in order to find out who you are, you need to first find out who you're not, And to me, I felt like that was, my journey might have been long, years of years, especially coming from a different country too. But if it weren't for me applying to my master's degree school, or the pre-med journey, I wouldn't be as confident as I feel being to where I am now, getting accepted to PT school. And then another thing would be the serenity prayer, which is, the strength to accept the things we cannot change, and have the courage to change the things that we still can, while having the wisdom to know the difference. Because when I was younger and going through undergrad is like, oh, I gotta see, my life is done, I'm not gonna go anywhere. Dude, you have you have so many factors like to gain more, value and strength. I'm not saying don't do well. Of course you have to, but you gotta learn how to forgive yourself in the things that it already happened. You can't like dwell on it. You just have to move forwards, and then money. I really like it on one of our habits challenge. Because I was part of the habits challenge too. When you were asking us like, what is your stance on money? Is it a good or a bad thing for you? And that really like I really thought about that. It's like, yeah, he's right. Joseph is right. It's a tool. It's a tool for you to do X, whatever it is. For me, it's a tool to live because I need my diabetes medication. I need a roof to live in, So in me saying that, you have to get your relationship right with money. Money is always going to be a problem anyway, but in relation to your education and knowledge, which relates to wisdom, like my mom would always say, your education is also an intangible thing or gift of life because you're going to gain knowledge. And knowledge is something that nobody can ever take away from you. Your education, I'm not saying and bashing people that didn't have the chance to get educated. I came from a third world country, and here we are so blessed to be able to go to elementary school, middle school for free, high school for free. I grew up in the Philippines. Public schools, you pay. You still pay. And so my point in that is don't ever feel guilty or bad that you have to spend for your education. Like, again, money is always going to be a problem, but it doesn't have to be. So those are the things that I would probably, if I could go back to the younger me, tell myself like, girl, look at you, you're surviving right now, and there's so many, like you, Joseph, you've shared your experiences, your struggles and your difficulties, people that were in this Inspire series. And I'm pretty sure, sometimes it's easier said than done, but you gotta do your best. Again, serenity prayer. So I'm really gonna stick to that.
Oh, that was wise beyond anything you could know. Is just focusing on the things that we can control, and understanding that the journey that we are on is molding the person that we're becoming. Right? I think Casey and I were talking about this recently, where we were like, if the things that we can handle in life now, right, whether it's with pre-PT grind or in our individual lives or as physical therapists or whatnot. Like I asked Casey, could you handle the things you can handle now? Could you handle them 2 years ago? He was like, no, absolutely not. Because it's part of the person you're becoming. Like the good and the bad, those moments, those years of just kind of having that up and down, those molded you into who you are today. So I think sometimes we look at those as bad things. Now, can we learn from them? Yeah, of course. Can we get direction and actually get closer to our goals? Of course. But when we really look back at those experiences in a bright light, like instead of looking at them as like, oh, I can't believe I struggle with my class, like look at them and say, like, what did I learn? Like, what did that teach me how to do? I mean, the fact that you're still fighting. So if you're listening to this right now and you've been rejected before, you've had low GPAs and you've doubted yourself and you're still pursuing physical therapy, well, resilience was part of your growth. Can you just celebrate the fact that you are resilient enough to listen to this? Like resilient enough, y'all, just understand what that really means, to be resilient enough to to keep pushing yourself and say, okay, like, what do I have to do? Like, how are other people doing it? That is a quality about you that really translates into so many other things that you do. And I think sometimes we miss that. It's the person that we're becoming. So I hope that this was valuable to y'all. This was insanely inspirational to me. Just listening to your story again. And I just, thank you so much, Marian, for taking time out of your evening
Yeah, of
to
course.
share your experience and just pour life into others that maybe have a similar story or are currently stuck. You had one more thing to say?
Yeah, I just really gotta share it. Also,
Yes.
one thing too is find your right connections. I mean, I know you and Casey always say that, and I truly believe that that's true because I've I've had friends before that believes in me, but and because I'm gonna say that I'm wiser and more mature now, you just gotta know your boundaries. Like it's okay to say no. It's okay to really tell yourself that maybe I'm surrounding myself with the wrong crowd or I'm seeking help in the wrong resources or wrong person. It's not because you're a mean person or a bad person. It's just knowing your boundaries, like as much as I hate to say this, but this is life. Like it's also there's a part of survival too, and that's okay. So just knowing the right connections that you have and that you have to surround yourself with really affects and will benefit your emotional and your mental like capacity. And if you don't know how to recognize that, I think eventually you're gonna be a wreck because it happened to me. So
Wow,
that's
true.
another advice.
So true. So true. Y'all learn how to protect your energy, your time, your dreams. Your dream of becoming a PT, protect it. Protect it. Create those boundaries and good things come from that. Good things come from
Yeah.
that. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's it. That's it. But thank you so much for taking time out of your evening. For those of y'all that are listening to this live or on replay, I hope you're blessed by this. If you feel like there's someone that needs to hear this that did not hear it, feel free to share it with them and inspire them. But y'all keep fighting, keep pushing, don't quit, don't give up. If this is the calling that you've been called to, do not quit, y'all. Do not quit. There are so many amazing human beings waiting for you to serve them through the field of physical therapy.
I agree.
But they're only going to be there if you keep pushing. And so don't give up on yourself. And if you feel stuck, like we got you. That's why we're here, right? And if you haven't registered for Sunday's masterclass, go to levelupwithprept.com and we'll see you there. But that's it, y'all. You guys have a blessed one. We will see you guys tomorrow night for another interview. Much love. Bye.